Hey everybody, Justin Dunaway here with the Institute of Clinical Excellence, lead faculty in our spine division and our chronic pain division. But I want to talk to you today a little bit about something a little bit out of my norm. First, I want to give you a quick shout out to Kayla, Joy, Natalie, and all of the awesome people at Gaylord Physical Therapy who hosted Total Spine Thrust Manipulation this last weekend in Connecticut. It was the last live course for me for the year, and it was an absolute blast. I couldn't think of a more fun way to end the teaching season for me. So again, big thanks to everybody out there for coming out. It was an absolute blast in New Haven, Connecticut last weekend. So today I actually want to kind of frame this around another conference. The weekend before last, I had the opportunity, honor, it was amazing, to speak at EIM's Manipalooza in Dallas 2 weekends ago. And I got to share the stage with Ado Zalstra and Mark Bishop from EIM, doing a little neurophysiology of thrust and needling around kind of a case and some exercise stuff. It was a really fun session. But what was awesome for me is getting to hang out at that conference with this, just kind of this who's who of speakers and leaders in our profession. EIM did a beautiful job of putting together a bunch of amazing speakers. And for me, on the front end of this teaching career, it's always awesome to get in a room and listen to a speaker who has been presenting, who's been delivering content for 10, 15, 20 years. The focused repetition and being a student of that game, when you listen to one of those humans speak, it's really something magical, right? As Tim Flynn would say, when they get on the stage and talk, and Tim Flynn is definitely on that list, but when they get in on the stage and talk, you lean in, right? So, and this is going to be kind of, normally I frame this around research or some pain science stuff or some manipulation stuff. But today's talk is going to be kind of around a conversation I had with two of my PT heroes, obviously Jeff Moore and Tim Flynn. So we're sitting at the conference and we're listening to all of these great speakers. And then the three of us kind of step out and we're getting ready to go for a run and we're waiting for our lift. And we just kind of get into a conversation about presenting in general, but then about what makes some presenters and some speeches special, makes them different. And we were talking about, we had just listened to Larry Ben's talk and then followed up with Adrian Lowe. So Larry Ben spoke, Adrian Lowe spoke, and if you've heard either of those two humans on a stage, there's something special. They're magical speakers. You're really engaged. You lean in. You want to hear more. All right, so talking with Jeff and Tim, and Tim says, what is it about them, about that speech, about the way they talk that's special, that really engages and captivates the audience? It's kind of hard to pin down, right? You think about any art form, and I believe presentation is kind of a form of art. You think about any type of art form, and it's really hard to describe the objective things that make it beautiful, that make it amazing, that make you feel that emotion or lean in. It's easily comparable to music, right? You can love Mozart, you can love Nirvana, you can love Charlie Parr, you can love Reba McEntire, you can love all these different bands, all these different musicians from all these different genres. But when they're on the stage, the thing they're doing is wildly different, but it elicits a very similar reaction in you. So what is it about the Larry Benzes and the Adrian Lowes that get the crowd to lean in? Because if you can learn that, if you can figure out what that skill is, it seems like the path to becoming a masterful presenter like these people, right? So then we started talking about, because as a very PT way to go about this, right? What are the mechanics of the speech? What's the anatomy of the speech? What is the things that we can dissect out and objectively measure to see what are the commonalities between what all these amazing presenters are doing? So when you think along those lines, what do you have? You have things like the words or the usage of the words, right? So we're talking about cadence of speech. We're talking about pitch. We're talking about volume. We're talking about how you vary these things to draw patients, to draw listeners in, or to emphasize a specific point. You have your media, you have your presentation. You know, are you using PowerPoint or Prezi? Do you have slides? What do your slides look like? Are there pictures? Are there words? Are you using videos? Are you using other type of media to draw draw the students in? What about stage presence? You have a specific space. Do you use this space? How much of your space do you use versus how much of your space do you have? What are you doing with your hands? Your posture, your body positioning, your facial expressions, and how are you varying those throughout the speech? How about audience engagement? You know, where does your eye gaze go? Are you picking specific people in the audience that you make eye contact with? Are you kind of scanning the crowd? Do you have specific focal points? Are you very straight-gazed? Are you kind of feeling the energy in the room and changing some of the other mechanics based on the feel you're getting back from the crowd? Are you picking out specific people to answer questions? Are you how do you get the crowd into the stage with you? So I think these are all interesting thoughts and interesting mechanics that you can be intentional about, or you can watch other speakers and kind of dissect what they're doing and sort of measure. So that's exactly what we did. We kind of sat down, we talked about it, and we kind of defined these specific realms that seem to be important, objective things to track, kind of the bones, the anatomy of a speech. And we said, okay, so now let's take that thought and let's apply it to what Larry Benz just did and what Adrian Lowe just did. Right? So if we think about those things, Larry Benz walks out on stage, and it may just be my imagination, but I feel like the lights dimmed a little bit. His voice was a little bit deeper. His cadence was slow. Not a ton of variability in his cadence or his tone. When you look at his slides, they were not a lot of words on them, mostly pictures that were metaphors that enhanced the story he was telling. But he certainly wasn't researching slides and things like that. When you look at the amount of stage he had versus the amount of stage he used, didn't use a whole lot. He walked back and forth a little bit most of the time, and it was a 20-minute talk. He sat in a chair, arms crossed, a very deep, engaging stare into the crowd where you felt like he was talking directly to you. It felt like you were sitting on a couch in his living room and Larry was telling you a story. And it was Mozart, right? You leaned in. It was powerful. It was dynamic. And you contrast that with Adrian Lowe, who hops up on the stage. Hops up on the stage isn't a right way to describe it. He hit the stage like he got fired out of a cannon. There's energy, there's passion. His cadence is up. Our heartbeats are up. His tone of voice is a little higher. He's got that cool accent. He's blasting you with information at the rate of a fire hose, but you love it. He's up and down. Have you ever been to the zoo and seen the tiger in the cage that's just up and down and using that whole space as he eyes the crowd? That's Adrian Lowe on stage. It's a little sweaty. It's a little hot. It's a little exciting. There's passion. There's fire in it. And you lean in. He's using hand gestures. His posture is very almost intense, like athletic. He's using hand gestures, pointing at the crowd, telling jokes. People are laughing. It's a very, very, very different use of the mechanics. It's a rock concert. It's Nirvana, and you lean in. And when you step back and look at those two presenters from the mechanics point of view, it's wildly different. They used pretty much every measure completely different. But yet they were both incredibly powerful presentations. Nobody walked out of the room and said A was better than B, and nobody walked out of the room and said anything but, wow, those people are amazing, and I feel better for being in the room and just listening to what they were talking about. So then we dive back into that. You've got these two presenters on stage that are both amazing, have both been doing it for a very long time, both deliver their passion in a completely different way, and the crowd responds to it pretty much the same way. Like, everybody wants more. Everybody wants to be in it. Everybody wants to be on the stage. What's the it factor? What is the thing that those two gentlemen have that make you lean in? And I think it's a hard thing to answer, but I think kind of where we landed on was this. If you go out to dinner and you happen to be lucky enough to be seated next to Larry Benz, and you're having a conversation with Larry, that person, that conversation you have feels so similar to that conversation the man just had with 120 people on stage. When Larry Benz walks onto the stage, he presents his true, authentic self. And Adrian Lowe, you step away from that dinner table, you walk over to the bar to grab a beer, and Adrian's posted up at the corner of the bar, and you buy the man a beer and have a conversation with him, and it's the same thing. It's faster, it's more passionate, there's more energy in it. He is in it to win it, and you can feel how important the thing is that he's talking about. And it feels very similar to when I watched him on stage in front of 120 people. When Adrian Lowe is on stage, he's the same dude as in the bar. It is his true, authentic self. So I think to take the 1,000-foot view of all this, if we split away all the things that are different and look at the commonality is that when I walk on stage, I cannot channel Larry Benz. I cannot be Adrian Lowe. I have to be me. The thing that makes the presentation powerful and authentic is the person on the stage is doing them. It's their pure, authentic self. But the mechanics are important as well. Larry Benz is on that stage with intention thinking about those things. And Adrian Lowe is on stage with intention thinking about those mechanics as well. They just use them different. They use the anatomy different to enhance their true self, right? Just like we all look different, just like 3 patients can walk in the door with wildly different anatomies but can have similar and the same outcomes. They use their anatomy to enhance who they are. A speaker on the stage, if those metrics are the anatomy of a speech, then your authentic self is the soul of the speech, is the life of the speech. So how do you get there? That's a great question. I mean, I think that's something that all of us that are not at that 20-year phase, that are not the Larry Benzes or the Adrian Lowes that are striving for. Like, how do you get to that point? And I think a good starting spot is this, right? If you kind of think about where are you the most you, conversationally or presenting or whatever, when are you the true authentic you? I think it's, you kind of visualize yourself in a room with a bunch of friends or family or whoever you're most comfortable with, and we can all remember, having a really good in-depth conversation at Thanksgiving after a few bottles of beer or whatever, and something comes up in conversation that is true to you, that is really passionate, that is something that you have some feels about, and you kind of get on your soapbox, you get in your rant, and you're doing your thing in that spot where you're most comfortable in the world with your friends and your family. The way that it comes out right there, I think that's your authentic you. And I think to get a good feel of what that person is, who that person sounds like, and how they interact with the people around them, and then emulating that person on the stage, and then walking on the stage with intention around cadence, around volume, around variability, around the dynamic pause, around how I engage the crowd, thinking about those metrics, but using that anatomy to enhance that person that was in the room with their friends. I think that's the path to get to where the Larry Benzes, the Tim Flynn's, the Adrian Lowes, the John Stewarts, the amazing speakers that we've all heard and want to emulate. The key isn't to emulate them. The key is to figure out who we are, put that on stage, and then figure out how to enhance that. So I know this is a little bit different topic for me than usual. I hope you enjoyed it. It's just something that I've been really thinking about after watching these speakers and having a really awesome conversation with Tim Flynn and John and Jeff Moore about how to really grow into an expert presenter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you have an awesome holiday, and I will see you all soon. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.